that come on the record. You know, they're, in some ways, they're putting their careers online. For instance, Dr. Lynn Marzulli, Phoenix Lights, this is a woman who's entrenched in the medical profession, highly respected, initiated several different programs, speaks all over the country, has written journals and books, and I mean, well-publicized, well-published author. She filmed these things in Phoenix in 1997 from out right on her balcony. I mean, she's out there filming this stuff, taking 35 millimeter still shots at the same time, and she wanted to remain anonymous, didn't know what to do with the stuff. She had a 600-page journal after a number of years. Finally, she realized she was doing the world a disservice by holding back the information. So she spent her own money, got some maybe some people to back her a little bit, whatever, and did this wonderful DVD, which I would highly recommend, The Phoenix Lights by Dr. Lynn Marzulli. Again, medical doctor, highly regarded by her constituents, and well-published woman, very, speaks when she comes on the Alien interview, speaks with great detail, great erudition on her part. Just an amazing woman. And yet she was afraid of coming forward because of the ridicule, because of being ostracized, because of all the stigma that goes with saying, I saw something which I don't know what it is. And so the book, once again, bringing your listeners back, we may disagree as to what this is, but we certainly can agree, and we need to agree, that the phenomenon is real, as burgeoning, is not going away. We need to get our heads out of the sand. And what's interesting on that, Hedrick, when you think about this, Britain, the UK, just in 2008, latter part in the fall, I believe, of 2008, began to reveal some of its classified documentation that discussed with great detail, great clarity, that, in fact, this UFO phenomena was real, and at the same time, they bought one of the pilots, who's now in late 60s or whatever, but he was the guy that was behind this, the controls in the airplane that was flying a sortie against this craft, which in his words was as large or larger than an aircraft carrier. This thing is huge. I mean, that's a mothership, an aircraft carrier. When he began to close in and fire the rockets, this particular craft moved away from him at speeds of excess of 10,000 miles an hour. We've got the UK, we've got Belgium, we've got France, and we've got Mexico that have come out and said, the phenomenon is real. Now I've heard Japan is beginning to shake loose. And frankly, in the United States, we see a little bit of what I borrowed Gorbachev's phrases of glasnost and perestroika, but in some way we're starting to see an openness where at least the phenomena is talked about instead of, that tongue-in-cheek little green men and, all this nonsense that we hear in the media with ridicule and people being ostracized. The phenomena is actually getting prime time. Larry King, when Edgar Mitchell came on, Hannity of Hannity and Combs, now the Sean Hannity show, actually had Mitchell on, did a one-on-one sit-down interview with him talking about the phenomena. Just fascinating. Yeah. And it was like, a little tongue-in-cheek in the beginning, let's joke, but, Mitchell came on very candidly and said, look, the Roswell crash happened. The government hid this thing for years and continues to do so, and too many witnesses saw this thing. So it's a fascinating book, the alien interviews, and it really, when we look at guys like Dr. Jacobs who come on the record, it's just fascinating, and it's hands-on. I mean, I'm asking him tough questions. It's not softball interviews, and he hits back with some very hardcore answers as to what's going on. Fascinating.
Very interesting indeed, and there have been quite a few interesting sightings, and this is slowly again trickling down through the news here and there. Recently in the UK, we had this wind turbine accident, whatever that might actually have been.
That's right.
We had some kind of speculation surrounding the Obama inauguration, a UFO sighting there.
And I'm aware of that, and I wish someone would finally come forward and at least analyze the film and tell us what it is. I mean, that to me is off the hook, absolutely off the hook. If it's real,
right?
Who knows?
Right, exactly. No, it's very difficult. But yet again, let's define UFO. I mean, unidentified flying object. It can be,
correct,
anything until we've identified it. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean automatically that this is, again, as you said, to put the ridicule spin on it, that this isn't about little green man piloting these things. This is just about the actual sightings of something that we don't know. But then the next level up to this is what people like David Jacobs that you mentioned, author of The Threat, I think, a very kind of dark aspect to this, as you mentioned, of course, as well. But he has done more of the hands-on work with the type of people that have had third level encounters, so to speak, with these beings. Is that right?
Well, yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when you're actually been abducted, and that's what Jacobs deals with. Now, he himself has never been abducted, but he has interviewed literally hundreds of people who have. Some of them recall their abductions without the aid of hypnosis. Others need to be put in a state of hypnosis, and then, whatever. It seems like these entities put a block there for whatever reason. So people know that something's happened, but they're not sure what, and they're very uneasy. Sometimes for years. They're always like, what's going on here?
Do you think
people who
sorry to cut you off, Lynn, but do you think that is something that has been done by the beings, by the visitors who are? You think?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's they set up some sort of a mental screening. People who have looked at the book cover of the alien interviews, I've gotten this from several people, absolutely freak out when they look at the cover. And frankly, when I first looked at the cover, which was done by an artist by the name of Judd Chaffee, who was inspired by my Nephilim series, and he didn't know what I was working on, and emailed me this photograph or this picture that he had drawn, and I was just blown away. I said, "You've captured the malevolence of these creatures verbatim, perfectly." And so he agreed and allowed me to use it on the cover of the new book, The Alien Interviews. And people who have seen this, I'm not making this stuff up either. People who have seen it, the cover, have actually recoiled and from it in fear, because it brings up something in them which they're not even sure what it is. I've had lots of email. When I looked at the cover of your book, I was afraid and ran into the next room. I began to think, I'm kind of paraphrasing a combination of some of the letters that I received. And I began to wonder, why am I reacting this way? And it began to bring back memories of, when I was a child, and I thought I saw creatures like this who took me places. It hasn't happened in a while. And from that, I'm able to, usually open up a dialogue with some of these people and talk about their experiences. So, once again, it brings us back to that first sentence, which I keep, telling people, that we may differ as to what the phenomena is, what's behind it, but we certainly can agree that it's real and that the phenomena is burgeoning. It's not going away. There is an end game. There's something that's going on. In my last book, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, The Coming Great Deception of a Luciferian Endgame. And we know from that other interview that we did, Henrik, that this is what I believe is the coming great deception, that this so-called alien agenda. And in fact, if I can just for a second, this is dated January 29th, so it's only a few days old, and this is from the Raelians, who have they've got a base in Jerusalem. This could have come right out of my alien or Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural book. And basically, let me just read this to you, because this is the alien gospel in a nutshell. And it basically says that Rael was given the task of spreading this message to all mankind. What was the message? According to the group's website, it was as follows. And this is what the Raelians were told by these small 4-foot aliens, with so-called aliens with these large black almond eyes. We were the ones who designed all life on Earth. You mistook us for gods. We were at the origin of your main religions. Now that you are mature enough to understand this, we would like to enter official contact through an embassy. This is exactly what I talk about as being the coming great deception of a Luciferian endgame. And Jacobs believes that, look, if these guys were benevolent, why abduct us in the middle of the night? Why perform experiments on us with the women, gynecological experiments, with the men, harvesting sperm or forcing some sort of intercourse with, alien hybrids, which people have talked about, painful rectal probes. What's going on here, folks? This isn't benevolent space aliens. And certainly, if you can come all this way, why would you allow this climate of fear to be promulgated during the abduction phenomenon? Wouldn't you just knock the person out completely so they don't remember anything? No, it's all done very deliberately. The currency of these people, these entities, is fear. They travel in it, they move in it, they operate in it, they instigate fear. Fear. Talk to any abductee that hasn't, checked their brain at the door and come, like, I won't mention the guy's name, but where, they start off reeling from these entities, and after a period of time, they've just grown to accept them as their benevolent overlords who have morals and ethics which are somehow so far beyond our own. So they basically check their brain at the door, in my opinion, and go along with this ridiculous program. It is malevolent to the nines. It is nefarious. It is evil. It is wrong. And it, in my opinion, is part of the Great Deception. And it is coming. I mean, this is dated January 29th, and the Raelians, it got 70,000 people worldwide, but they are, in some ways they're like the vanguard of this coming Great Deception. They're telling people exactly what I wrote in my book. I mean, verbatim. You could take exactly what I wrote and hold them word for word. It's like who's copying who type of a thing. And I didn't know what they believed when I wrote Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, but I took all the evidence that was there in front of me, and I said, this is what they're going to say. And what, a year and a half later, they come up with exactly verbatim what I talk about in Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural. So I find that incredibly sobering.
I definitely see that there is a kind of popular, they're trying to popularize the alien phenomena as well in the media, in some circles at least. It seems to also play into a little bit of this kind of new agey agenda that you mentioned here, with the Raelians being kind of a little bit of the poster boys for this, actually. Do you see that or rather, how do you think that this will play out? Let's say if we talk about it in the context of the new age or whatever, that this will be a kind of a new type of religion, almost a mishmash of spirituality and playing into the alien phenomena. Where do you see this is going, Lynn?
Well, I do. I mean, and remember, what we're dealing with are interdimensional entities, and this is, I'm skipping at the end of the book. This is when I write, I talk about what does it all mean. It's about 30 to 40 pages, and I really tie the thing together with, believe it or not, the Shroud of Turin, and then I go back into some ancient manuscripts and discuss when these entities, good or bad, appear. What is it like when human beings encounter them? And we see that you can draw a real correlation between when these entities appear in these ancient manuscripts, specifically the Bible, and I can get into that if you want, and some of what happens in the abduction phenomena. What people need to realize is these entities are, if they are interdimensional, of course I believe that they are, they have certain properties which are just inherent in them. They're imbued. They're installed. It comes with these beings. They're created in this way, okay? And they have powers that to us appear miraculous. To us appear paranormal or supernatural. To them, to these entities, it's just how they were created. It's how they're made. They're just imbued with them. They're just operating in what's a normal fashion for them. To us, it seems absolutely supernatural. So when these guys begin to manifest on this planet, they will do, and remember, and I'm going to tip my hand here a little bit, but when we go into one letter, which is written about 2,000 years ago, and it says that Satan, when he returns, will come with all signs and lying wonders. When he actually begins to manifest on the planet, returns the wrong word. When he begins to manifest on the planet, he will come with all signs and lying wonders. Now, unfortunately, most people believe that this being, Satan, doesn't really exist. Or they reduce it to some guy in a red devil suit with horns and a pitchfork. I mean, nothing could be farther from the truth. We are looking at a super genius who's demented, perhaps, definitely demented, but is a super genius on some level. A very powerful principality, very, very powerful. If mankind, if we stood in the presence of this thing, we would fall down as if dead, literally. You just can't stand in front of these guys. And we see that over and over and over when we go back and examine ancient texts. When angels appear, to men, they are often, boom, immediately on their face as if dead. And the good guys go over and touch them and bring them back and say, peace be to you. It's okay. Hey, stand up, rise up on your feet. The bad guys don't do that. See, the bad guys let you fall, let you stay there in stupefaction and create that climate of fear. And that's what we see when I talk about in the alien interviews. When I discuss the Mothman prophecies, which is sort of off topic, it may seem off topic, but when we get into what happened with the Mothman and when this entity appeared to the person I interviewed, which is Lawrence Gray, the same type of thing. This entity appeared in his room.